Let's shift focus on to this now as we celebrate Women's Month this August. Calls are mounting for more to be done as women die at the hands of their most intimate partners in South Africa. Now, before it progresses to violence, abuse manifests itself in various ways, and unfortunately, women are oftentimes blamed for staying after seeing the red flags in the beginning of the relationship. We discuss the psychology of abuse now with Clinical Psychologist Sithabile Ndlovu. Sta, very good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for joining us. In the beginning, it's always very nice, soft words, gentle touches. You'd never even suspect that this person has another side to them. Is there something to be said by what our parents said, ukuthi uthando olunqameleyo losheshe kukushiya?
I'm not sure what unqameleyo means. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. But I think there's quite a unique dynamic at play in abusive relationships, where there's psychological phenomena to understand in both the perpetrator and the victim. And at most times, we want to understand what is it about the abuser that is causing them to abuse another person. But also there's quite a lot for us to understand about the person being abused. How is it that they find themselves in relationships like these? Because oftentimes they move from one abusive relationship to another. And it all just goes back to perhaps how they were raised and what they observed as they were growing up.
Ukungama is to rush, so a hurried love where, you know, you get too much too soon. I think they call it love bombing, where somebody gives you too much too soon. They tell you they love you in just a week of knowing you, flattering you a lot, and you actually don't even know this person. But when you talk about the psychology of the person being abused, what is a trauma response when you talk about the way that you were raised, when you respond to trauma?
So it is indeed true that when things are rushed in a relationship, it is quite a red flag to always note and to be aware of, because what abuse is about essentially is about a sense of control. So the person who is abusing the other person in some ways wants to maintain or gain dominance or control over the other person. So this person who is being abused will then find themselves in a situation where they cannot get out of, because as the relationship starts, a lot of the times it is indeed a lot more, or appears a lot more loving and a lot more great and happy, far more than other relationships that don't end up in abuse. So what this person does is they want to, in some ways, sort of control the way in which you see them and control in the way in which you see yourself. So you find yourself in a situation where you see yourself, you cannot see yourself outside of this relationship and outside of this person because of some of the things that they've said or they've done to you that make you believe that this is the only thing that is there for you.
Would we then say that is psychological abuse?
Yes, definitely. And I believe that all types of abuse will in some way have an aspect of psychological abuse, because what happens with the person who is being abused, that they may have negative core beliefs about themselves, that they don't necessarily believe that they deserve better or that there is better out there. So they tend to doubt themselves quite a lot and believe that they're supposed to be in relationships like this. And sometimes they aren't even able to see some of the things that we call red flags, because and a lot of the times in a lot of relationships, it is very subtle, especially in the beginning.
It's subtle, especially in the beginning. When you don't even know, or you can't even pick up the signs that perhaps this is not right, like you say, you frame your world around this person, what then do you do also in the absence of friends, right? Because your friends sometimes get tired, like you again, you and this, you know, so it's about time you did something about it.
Yeah, so I think it becomes so difficult because friends may be telling you that this is not right, this is a toxic relationship, this relationship is abusive, but for some people it is very difficult for them to even recognize that this isn't a toxic relationship or it's an abusive relationship. And what accounts for this is the fact that what they have as templates of love or templates for relationships are characterized by dysfunctional emotional connections, chaos, and just non-reciprocity in the relationship. So they've grown up and seen that this is what a relationship looks like, and this is what a relationship should be. So when they find themselves in relationships like that, they can't even recognize that this should not be happening and this is not right. So then it becomes very difficult when friends sort of want to advise them and say, but you shouldn't be in a relationship like this shouldn't be happening. They aren't able to recognize that this is actually should not be happening because they've grown up in an environment where love was characterized by so much dysfunction, and this is what they have learned, that this then becomes their template of love.
What about people who are not then able to express themselves in a healthy way, to say this does not sit well with me, or I think this should happen, where you set boundaries to protect yourself?
So I think it really does become quite difficult in terms of preserving oneself and ensuring that you are well taken care of and that you take care of your own emotional needs while in a relationship. So people may struggle to sort of express how they are feeling, or that their needs are not being met in this relationship. And a lot of the times people want to ward off uncomfortable emotions and uncomfortable feelings. So people would rather engage in what we call avoidance, where you'd rather not speak about something if it's uncomfortable, because you fear that if you do speak up about it, you may then become unlovable. You may then appear as somebody who's trying to destroy a good thing, because it does look good on the outside or on the surface. So it does become really difficult for the person to sort of express how they are feeling. And on the other hand, there are other people who express their emotions in maladaptive ways, where they express themselves in ways that are perhaps detrimental to the relationship, or harmful to themselves, or sometimes harmful to the other person. That's when we see a lot of abuse happening in relationships.
When do you know it's time to seek help?
I think at all times, whenever you realize that in many ways in this relationship, you are having to sacrifice yourself for this relationship to survive. So in many ways, you find that you have to die so many times, figuratively, for this relationship to continue living. So whenever you realize that parts of yourself are slowly dying, or parts of yourself are slowly just becoming unseen or invisible, or you slowly just not recognizing who you are, not recognizing the person that you were when the relationship started, it is really important that you seek assistance and that you seek professional help.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Clinical Psychologist Sithabile Ndlovu.